Welcome to the standoff. Today we are taking a look at two different wheels from two different manufacturers, the iconic Enkei RPF1 and the brand new Kansei 7. We're going to be going over each of these wheels individually as well as comparing them head to head when it comes to their design, construction, availability, and price. I'm Gels. Let's go ahead and get started. Starting off, let's get to know what each of these wheels are by themselves. We're going to be starting with the Enkei RPF1. Now, the RPF1 really doesn't need any introduction, as it has been one of the most popular and iconic aftermarket wheels pretty much of all time. Still manufactured in Japan, this wheel is now over 20 years old, as it was first introduced to us back in 2002. This wheel was developed for a very specific purpose, and that was to be as lightweight as possible while still being strong, and not to mention a little bit more affordable. In the other corner, we have the brand new wheel that just got introduced to us back in the final minutes of 2024, which is the Kansei 7. Named as such to celebrate the 7 years of Kansei making aftermarket wheels, as well as it being the 7th wheel in their lineup. The split 7-spoke wheel, while having an extra set of spokes compared to the RPF1, does seem to share a few design inspirations from its predecessor. And we have been getting asked quite a bit if there actually is a real difference between these two wheels, which is exactly why we're here, to give you the raw facts and details about each of these wheels so you can confidently make a decision on whether or not something like the Enkei RPF1 is the best for you, or if something like the Kansei 7 might actually fit your needs a little bit more. So with all that being said, let's start getting into the nitty-gritty details, starting with the overall design. With the RPF1, we get a split 6-spoke design with some very thin spokes. Lately, especially on the internet, of course, the RPF1 has gotten a bit of hate for the fact that it's basic. Oh, everyone has the RPF1. It's so basic. It's so simple. It's the vanilla ice cream of aftermarket wheels. And I mean, it's kind of hard to argue those facts. Enkei wasn't setting out to create a one-of-a-kind show wheel by any means. They wanted to make an insanely lightweight wheel that came in at a reasonable price and can hold up to pretty much anything you would throw at it. And this is the design that they landed with to do just that. Now, when we look at the Kansei 7, we see some similar design elements within the spokes themselves. However, they feel more exaggerated, I would say. We get a little bit more depth by the way that the spokes are pushed out towards the face of the wheel and the way that they kind of dive back in towards the center, giving us a little bit more clearance not only on the back side of the wheel for the brakes, but we get a little more concavity out of the overall design as well. The spokes themselves extend a little bit more towards the outside of the wheel where the RPF1s kind of stop a little bit short, and we get this flat area right before the actual lip of the wheel, which can sometimes make the overall diameter of the wheel feel a little bit smaller. Now, when Kansei first introduced this wheel, it almost immediately got compared to the RPF1 for those reasons. Now, obviously, we do have an extra set of spokes in the design with the Kansei 7, so it's hard to truly call it a replica of the RPF1, but interestingly enough, Work also came out with a very similar design, the ZR7, at the beginning of 2024, which I would personally say looks a lot similar to the new Kansei 7 than the RPF1 does. But the RPF1 did it first, which is why these are the two on our radar. Now, we can talk about how similar wheels look pretty much all day, but I mean, it's 2024. There's a lot of wheels that have hit the market, and unfortunately, you can only make it so many different ways before they just start to look a little bit similar. Now, I know some people might get mad when they hear that, but it kind of just is what it is. And honestly, when it comes down to something like these two wheels specifically, what you should really be caring about is how they are made and how they're going to be able to handle what you need out of a set of aftermarket wheels. So let's talk about the construction. Now, it's no secret that the RPF1 is an incredibly lightweight and strong wheel, and it tends to have a lot of people think that these are forged wheels when that's really not the case. If these wheels were a single piece monoblock forged wheel, you'd be paying about 3 times more than they are right now. These wheels are what's considered rotary forged or flow formed, and they are made using Enkei's MAT manufacturing process, standing for Most Advanced Technology. I know it's a very original way to name it, but it is quite a bit different from your typical flow forming process. Part of Enkei's manufacturing process for these wheels uses what's known as a D'Urville die casting method, where the mold itself is actually flipped upside down. The aluminum alloy forms the other side of the wheel before your traditional casting method would. Now, this metal is also quenched very quickly from the disc side of the wheel, and that combination of this allows for more desirable tensile strength and yield strength in the face of the wheel. Once the face of the wheel is made, it is then formed out the rest of the way into its final size and shape using the typical flow forming process. Less material used, better structure to the metal, and a strong and lightweight design gives us everything that makes the RPF1 so good and allows it to meet JWL certifications, as well as Enkei's own evolution of those standards, which is known as Spec E. So that's all great. What about the Kansei 7? Well, it's manufactured using a pretty similar flow forming process as well. Now, Kanseis, they are made in China, and whether or not that factory produces wheels using the D'Urville die casting method as well, it's unfortunately unknown to me. I try to give you guys and gals all the best info that I can, but I could not find an answer anywhere on that specifically. Either way, very similar manufacturing process. The 7 is both JWL and VIA certified, which is great, but with all that, we have typically seen wheels from Kansei still come in a little bit heavier than others in the same category, and sometimes that has to do with the load rating of the wheel, which we'll get into in just a bit. Overall though, Kansei does a solid job in the construction of their wheels, and we've seen them hold up to quite a bit of abuse taken on the track and of course on your everyday roads with potholes and such. So we've talked a lot about weight, so let's get the actual numbers on these wheels. This here is an 18x8.5 plus 35 RPF1 with a 1,521 pound load rating, which does make a difference when it comes to these wheels. 18.3, 18.4 pounds, fluctuating right in between there, settled on 18.3 pounds. Now, the Kansei 7 that we have here is a bigger size wheel, 18x9, so a little bit wider. We do have a load rating of 1,550 pounds, so a little bit heavier of a load rating there. And this wheel is going to be coming in at 22.4 pounds. So right about average where we see Kansei wheels come in. They like to float around that 22 to 24 pound range, which isn't too shabby all things considered, but you're talking, 4 pound difference. And again, we are talking a little bit difference in width here, but overall the RPF1 is going to be a lot lighter than the Kansei 7. 2 decades is a long time for a wheel to be around. And within that time, the RPF1 has become available in pretty much every size you could ever need for sport tuner cars. As long as you don't need anything bigger than 18 inches in diameter, you're pretty much covered. With size offerings ranging from 14 to 18 inches in diameter, widths from 7 to 10.5 inches, and pretty much every bolt pattern besides 5x115, it's no surprise why you do see these wheels everywhere and anywhere and on pretty much any type of car. For the most part, RPF1s are ready to go, and it's not hard to get a hold of a set of the wheels that works for you and your car. The only part that gets a little bit interesting is the finishes. Now here we have the gold finish, which I absolutely love and wish we would see a little bit more of, but of course you have the classic bright silver finish as well, and the SBC finish, which you can get in special order, which is going to be more of like a black chrome. Now with the Kansei 7, especially with it being a new wheel to the market, the sizes are going to be a lot more limited. However, you can get them in 19-inch diameters, which is desired for a lot of the newer cars that are hitting the market. Cars like the Nissan Z, the Supra, anything with like a 5x120 that seems to take everything over an 18-inch, those are what you're going to be seeing a lot of these on. Widths you get to choose from for these are going to be anywhere between 8.5 to 10.5 inches. And when it comes to offset and bolt patterns, Kansei does a pretty good job at getting you either a mild or aggressive setup for a lot of those popular vehicles. Currently, 7 is available in 2 different finish options, the Hyper Silver, which we have right here, and a gloss gunmetal, which is like a deep gray with a lot of metal flake to it. So what does that all boil down to price-wise? I mean, there's a lot of similarities and some differences between these 2 wheels, but where does that put each of them as far as cost? Well, currently the RPF1 in an 18x9.5 configuration comes in right about $1,500 per set, and the Kansei 7 in the same configuration comes in a little bit cheaper at right around $1,280 per set. So for a few $100 less, does the Kansei 7 work a little bit better with the newer design and some larger sizes, or is it worth it to spend a little bit more for a lighter weight wheel in a broader size offering that has been around for almost as long as you have? That, my friend, is truly up for you to decide. So let us know what you're choosing down in the comments below. And of course, if you're looking to check out either of these wheels for your car, the RPF1 or the brand new Kansei 7, make sure to do so over at martiniworks.com. And if you're looking to pick up a set ASAP, you can do so with some help from our financing options that we have available over there as well. So give those a look through. You can get yourself a new set of wheels right away. I'm Gels. This has been the standoff between the RPF1 and the Kansei 7. We'll see you later.